pity and our heartfelt sympathy that we feel for Rashid, we don't feel that for ourselves.
Ooh.
For us, we just accepted that, you know what? Oh, we're not picked. Okay, it's normal. We're not picked. Men change the chariot trajectory all day, every day on us, and it's
Mm.
fine.
Mm.
But when a woman says, you know something, I don't think I want you. I think I want him, for whatever the reasons are, all of a sudden, look at the outpour that there's been for Rashid. My question is, why is it that
Mm.
we
Mm.
have so much sympathy there, but we don't sympathize with each other
Mm.
when we are in this situation all the time?
That's a question for the ladies on the panel. I'm going to Lou. Continue the conversation. I'm going to Lou.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot.
Go for it,
I
Lola.
think, first of
2-6.
all, like you said, it's something that we kind of always accept. We always get it. And then second of all, for some other reason, there is that, like, so if your sister goes through something like that, you will sympathize with her. But if it's somebody else that you're not related to, unfortunately, I hate to imply that, but we might think that's competition. So the pity isn't there. Because I can think of all the other, like the other females on the show, for example, like what's her name, the one Denise. I got a lot of heat for defending her. Yes, she had a great craziness, but she got left by two guys, and there really wasn't any compassion as to why it was okay. Well, she did this, she did that. So I think a lot of the time when we don't feel sorry for each other, there is that edge there because we're always competing. Whereas with guys, they find a way to smooth it out. And of course, with females, we're empaths. We feel sorry for them. We want to take care of them. We almost feel like we could, like all of us in the chat were saying, oh, you know, poor Rashid. Oh, maybe we can holler at him. And that's what happens. So the pity comes from a place of, yeah, poor him. But also, you know, that means there's an opening.
Mm. 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 Okay. Who wants to fill in for that? Adra, why are you looking at me like that for? Me, I'm not a problem, oh. I'm not a problem. Adra, open your mic.
But just sorry, sorry, sorry.
I'm a
That
spectator
was a
here.
Ghanaian face. That was a Ghanaian face. You read it.
Yeah.
No, I actually don't quite agree with that, Wendy. I don't
Okay.
think that there is a lack of empathy when it
I
comes
like
to
this.
women. I think there actually is a lot more empathy and a lot more sympathy because we know what it feels like. We know
Okay.
what it feels like. Now, if we're in competition with the same man, of course, there probably is a lack of empathy or sympathy. But as a woman watching another woman being dogged by a man, we do feel it. You know, we do feel it. We feel it in the same way we feel for Rashid. We just may not have a platform to voice it as much. But
Mm.
if we were allowed that platform, I think we would be able to extend that, you know, that level of sympathy to one another because we more than anybody know what it feels like.
I like that. Shanice, talk to me because I know I muted you earlier on and you were going to say something. Go for it, Shanice.
Yeah, I do. At least for me, I think that I did feel sympathy for the women on the show that, you know, didn't get, I guess, I can't even say love because they didn't get to that point, but the attention or you know, the reciprocation of feelings, right? For
Mm.
example, Winter, when she had the kind of double date with Joy, Edwin, and what's it, Jay? And basically the two men basically picked Joy over her in front of her friends. Like to me that was tough. I don't know.
That was
Like to
painful.
me that was painful, right? So I really sympathize with her in that situation. I think the difference is I felt like she never, took stock of what was happening and said, you know what, this isn't, at least it didn't seem that way. She just allowed the man to make the decision. She allowed Jay to continuously pick Joy over her versus taking stock of the situation and saying, you know what, this isn't working. Let me find another interest or let me pursue other options. Whereas with Rashid, he did make a different choice. And to me, I respect that. You know what I mean? So I did empathize even with Denise. Denise is, I was rooting for her. But Denise was also like a really, challenging situation. And to me,
Mm.
it's like, I feel like to a certain extent, it's like, at least looking at the show, it feels like, okay, it, reality and reality TV is two different things. So I can't
Mm.
necessarily say for what actually happened, the timelines of how things happen, but at least how it looked on the show, it felt like, the episode where both Kafani and this other guy with the
What,
ras.
Anthony?
Anthony,
Yeah, yeah.
right? When they didn't pick her and she was at the bottom because no one picked her. I felt like, to me, you needed to take stock and realize, they're not choosing you. Like, whether you should reevaluate whether you have another interest here, or should I just, step away because I'm not interested in them. Like, I like them, but they don't like me. It's not reciprocal. So to me, it's like, I think women really needed to take stock of where they were in those positions. Like, we like who we like, but I think it needs to also be mutual. The people that we like need to also like us.
Do you ladies have a? Oh, sorry, who was going to speak?
So
Was that you?
that was me, Kodjo. I was going to say to both Adjoa and Shanice's point, would you also argue that we saw an example of women having sympathy for each other when we saw Joy's friend and Winter's friend? They had just met each other and they were both kind of
yeah,
yeah. When they had was it lunch or something with the kind of square triangle, whatever, but they kind of came together and were both questioning the guys, okay, so you like him and you like, how is this supposed to work out? And they kind of really came together, and it kind of just showed you that sisterhood. As women, we kind of, I feel like we do have that sympathy for each other, or we come together in these kind of circumstances. But yeah, I thought that scene was a really good scene because they just met each other and they came together and kind of were having both the ladies' backs in that situation.
There's a question here I want to just pose to the panelists. It says Winter is a pick me. Again, this is their question, by the way. So if Winter watches this, we're not saying this is what they said. Winter is a pick me, but Rashid isn't. Winter is just as likable. I like Simone too. Hell, I like Adriana. Rashid wasn't entitled to her. This is a show. Let me just take the first part of the question. The rest of it, I don't want to. But Winter is a pick me, but Rashid isn't. Why is it? Do we feel that there's a difference in response, maybe particularly between Winter, how we empathize with Winter compared to Rashid? Why is Rashid getting if you want to say the love comments, whereas Winter seems to be getting, okay, we understand you, but yeah, we're not rocking with you. What is it? What is it that we see? What is a clear difference that we can get to understand as to why two are treated differently? I just want to get to know your viewpoints.
That's a good question, and to kind of like, I'm probably making more of a question than a statement.
That's right.
But to add on to that, I think throughout the season there were quite a few comments about how the ladies were doing a lot of the pursuing versus the men. The men were kind of, it looked like the ladies were chasing, and I don't know if that kind of fits into how this played out or people's perspectives as well.
I think too, Winters, at least how she was portrayed on the show, kind of impacted how people saw her. You know what I mean? Okay. So she wasn't necessarily seen as like this. She wasn't seen like Joy in the same way. She wasn't seen as wholesome as Joy. You know what I mean? I can't speak to her character or anything like that. She seems like a lovely person, but just based on the way she dressed and, those types of things, I think she was kind of portrayed as, this kind of almost like a vixen type person. But I felt like people didn't necessarily have that kind of warm-hearted empathy for her, in terms of, the challenges she had in terms of dating Jay. So it kind of seemed like, okay, she looked for that. So she put herself in that position in a sense. I'm just saying like how it came across. Not saying that is what happened or if it's true or whatever, because at the end of the day, everyone needs to be respected and treated fairly and all of that. But I think that's part of at least the narrative of why she isn't seen or treated with kid gloves or as softly as you would have treated other people.
Good point.
So I want to also throw some.
Oh, go for Adjoa. Sorry, then.
I want to throw something in there. I think there is a power dynamic when it comes to men and women. Okay. Men are the pickers, right? I mean, yes, as women, we pick too. I don't want anyone coming for me in the comments. Like, we pick. I get it. Yes, I get it. We pick. But really, when you think about it and the dynamics of a relationship, really, it's the man that really does the leading in the picking. So there's a level of comfort there, even though Rashid was kind of left. There's still a level of comfort there where he was kind of he's a leader in this dance. If it's a tango in this dance, Rashid's always going to be the leader because he's a man. So with Winter, the pick me looks more pick me-ish because we do want to be picked as women in some aspect. Even when a woman says, I don't want to be picked, you can like a guy and like a guy for your whole lifetime. And if he does not like you, nothing's moving. So that dance is still led by men. And so it gives them a little bit more of a power, a shift in the power dynamic where the woman can seem a little bit more needy if she wants to be picked versus a man, because he can move. And the numbers are not in our favor, right? The numbers are not in our favor. So that puts another level of burden on us to want to be chosen. So that's another aspect of it.
Yeah, you took it like right out of my mouth. I was thinking the same thing, that this is a patriarchal society. We're still playing by the rules that the males put in place. And so what we find ourselves doing is, once they've set these rules, because what's the main difference really is that, okay, there are things it's okay for a man to do, but it's considered not okay for a female to do, period. So I hear these terms, it's all these funny terms, pick me, high value, all these things, but they were all created to kind of keep us in a certain box. We're still kind of attacking each other while the males are still controlling things and running things. And even with this numbers game that we talk about here, I mean, yes, they're in certain arenas, particularly for a certain type of female, you've got your stuff together, you're making a certain amount of money, and then so that the air becomes thinner up top, and so there are less men you would consider, in your same bracket range. But at the same time, I would hate us to think that those are the only men we can choose. So what they tell us, right, is there's certain things a certain game we have to play by, and there are not enough men for us, and so that makes a lot of females feel that their choice is narrowed, and so they start thinking a certain way. And I feel like I saw that in that little game that was on the resort, because all of a sudden the males were chilling, because it started with 10-10, period. Let's forget everything outside. There was 10 one side, 10 on the other side, but for some reason it seemed like the men had the upper hand. Why? That's the thing. Why did they? Because they would kind of cut them off one by one. So why did it look like the men had the upper hand? Why were the females? Why did it turn out for the females chasing the males at one point? Why is that happening? Because what's happening out there now, out here was playing in there. That patriarchal society started going, and of course some of the females, like if you look at Winter and what's her name with the bushy hair, Joy. Yeah, they had this outer appearance of, oh yeah, they're friends and they're cool, but they weren't cool. There was misunderstanding between them, and they never really faced each other. They faced each other, but in such a pretentious way. The person who should have gotten most of that smoke was Jay, but he was sitting cool as a cucumber. Nobody gave him any smoke. I don't know if he got any smoke in private, but in public, where he should have gotten it, because he didn't get anything. Because especially when she saw those videos of Winter walking down the hallway 5 minutes after him or 2 minutes after him, she should have smoked him right there on the couch, because clearly he had misconstrued the nature of their relationship to begin with, because she was very comfortable feeling like she was the main character, and then Winter was just like a tag along, and she was okay with her sister or her good friend, however they call the relationship, being in that tag-along position. So we still, as females in this society, are still feeling the need to compete with each other. And I think that's the bottom thing that's going on. Because let the truth be told, when you see a guy, some desirable man, there will be some kind of competition between the females, unfortunately. And so I think when it gets to a point, and it's changing. The truth is, it's changing. The way it was when it was my mother's time, it's not that much now. It's changing, but it hasn't changed. We're now beginning to realize that, no, we shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be facing the males.